hats off to all the teachers out there that are joining this webinar and that are working up and down the state and up and down the country, doing amazing work. People sort of use the old adage all the time, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, if anyone ever says that to me in the future, I'm going to say, well, you weren't there during the pandemic of 2020, because a lot of teachers put down their traditional tools that they've been using and picked up a whole bunch of new tricks to try and engage and educate the youth of today. So I'm absolutely, hats off to everyone. I think it's absolutely amazing. Also, just want to say, I'm honored to be able to speak to you all today. Thank you for coming on to the webinar. They usually say when you're doing public speaking that you've got to kind of imagine the audience in their underwear. I don't need to imagine. You guys are probably all just sat at home in your underwear anyway, because you're not on camera. So that's good to kind of relieve the tension as well. All right, so let me go to share my screens and applications that I'm going to share with you today. We've got a bit of a slideshow that you're going to be able to see that I'm going to share with you, as well as you'll be able to see my live screen and all the different applications that I'm using. So I'm used to using Google Meet, so it might be a little bit clunky, my use of Zoom, but I'm certainly going to do my best. I've got to move my little camera into the corner there. So I'm going to put my slideshow on presenter view mode, so that way it doesn't take up my entire screen, which is a little trick that I've discovered since doing virtual learning. All right, so this is high school ELA virtual teaching and learning guerrilla style. So, so why guerrilla style? Well, here's the dictionary denotations of guerrilla. So a member of a small independent group taking part in irregular fighting, typically against larger regular forces, is the noun form. And then the adjective is referring to actions or activities performed in an impromptu way, often without authorization. Well, how does this connect to guerrilla style virtual learning? Well, first of all, it's small, right? There's one of you, usually, unless you've got aides or co-teachers in the classroom. So it's small. One, you trying to virtually combat or engage 30 plus hostiles, your students. Just kidding, they're not really hostile, at least for the most part. Irregular, so this is not our common battlefield. This isn't the classroom we're used to, or that, they're used to, for that matter. So it's time to adapt. It's impromptu. Well, you can say that again. A month ago, I thought Google Docs was where Google employees went with their repetitive strain injury. So getting used to that is new. And then without authorization, hopefully not. Hopefully there is authorization and some oversight going on at your schools and districts. But I've heard from a lot of teacher friends that a lot of the mandates from districts and from schools has been, think outside the box, right? Try something new, be innovative. So do that, right? Use this as an opportunity to be innovative and try something different and something new. So to my mind, guerrilla style also means basic tools. I don't want to spend my own money wherever possible. I mean, a teacher, I don't get paid that much to begin with. If the district wants to invest, yay district, yes, invest. But other than that, I want to try and use the free stuff that I can get. And then part of that is enhancing the basic, right? So taking the basic and hopefully free versions of virtual tools, making them work for you and me making them work for myself in as impactful a way as possible. So that's kind of my understanding of guerrilla virtual learning. Of course, as we know, it isn't really warfare. The students are our allies. They want structure. They want to learn. They want to be engaged. I was so surprised, like after the pandemic first hit, the students that came out in force when we did our first sort of online virtual learning. I had nearly full attendance, more attendance, like better attendance than when we taught like in real life classrooms, which just showed the students were just begging for some structure and for some contact with the outside world. So they really do want to engage with the virtual learning. So it's up to us to kind of engage them as well. Having worked with teenagers, memes, the way to go, right? Help me out here. You see I have needs, you have wants. Let's work something out, right? The students have wants and needs, and so do we, and we're kind of working together to make that happen through virtual learning. So what are we going to cover in this webinar? So we've got about an hour, maybe we'll go for about 45 minutes and have some Q&A depending on time. We're going to look at Google Docs as a lesson home base. So virtually your best friend. I use Google Docs like all day, every day, all the time. We're going to look at digital notebooks, say goodbye to those spiral bound relics. Kami is a digital annotation tool that we're going to look at. And then Jamboard. In America, you might call it Jellyboard. That's just a joke, some British humor there. But that would just be plain wrong, right? So this is a virtual whiteboard tool that we're going to be looking at today. All right, so side note, I'm going to do as much of this through live presentation as possible. So the slides are going to be fairly minimal. The webinar is being recorded, so if you need to kind of go back and look at different things that I demonstrate and show you, you're free to do that. I'm going to go fairly quickly because some of the tools have like a lot of different features, and I'm going to try and show as many as I can, but definitely the most functional ones that I tend to use the most is what I'm going to be showing you today. All right, so we're going to start with Google Docs as kind of a home base for your virtual lessons. My school district is fully Googled up, so we use Google everything. If you have a Google account, then you have access to Google Docs. You just need to click the waffle icon, and this is what it looks like here, and then select Google Docs. So if I just open a new tab right here, and hopefully you guys can see my tab.
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, you can see it. You can see
the new tab. Yeah.
Okay, good. I just wanted to check because sometimes it can be a bit quirky. So here's the Google Apps waffle, they call it, and then you can kind of click that open, and you can just open Google Docs right there. So what I've done is I've got my Google Docs already open here at the top, and I created a folder especially for this webinar. So if I go to most recent, oh dear, I've lost it. So I'm going to go to last modified. This is my Google Doc. And then here it is. This is my special folder that I've created for the webinar. And then I'm just going to go to a copy of a lesson plan. So I use Google Docs for all my lesson planning. So I kind of follow this format where I have like class name, date in the unit, lesson number, what the lesson title is about. SWBAT is students will be able to, and then what the learning objectives are for the day. And then I have it split up into the starter, the intro, the development, the plenary, which is where the students demonstrate to me their knowledge and understanding, and then homework and whatnot. So this is just for me, right? This is my sort of planning tool where I think about how I'm going to structure my individual lesson. But I would also use this same document to present to students in a classroom in real life on my like projectable whiteboard. And when I'm projecting, kind of the way I'm projecting to you, like in a virtual setting. So the best thing is to hide the menu. It gives you kind of more space here. And when the lesson starts, usually we'll do some kind of like hello. I'll have the students write something in the chat, just kind of community building. We'll do kind of some sort of interaction. And then there'll be the title, date, learning objective for the day, and then some sort of starter activity. So for example, right here, you've got it, the title, Exploring Villanelles, the date, this is an old one that I haven't updated from 2016. The learning objective, which is to discover Dylan Thomas, explore the features of a villanelle, and then the starter activity. So if we skip back to the presentation. So when do I use this kind of Google Doc tool? I'm going to go back to it in a second. So I use it every day, right? I use Google Docs as my planning tool, as my start off point with my students. Every single lesson, they'll see that title, date, and learning objective laid out, and they will copy that into their digital notebook, which I'm going to be showing you as well. Like I said, I put the title, date, and learning objective and the starter activity. And then chronologically on the Google Doc, I'll have like the lesson questions and activities and tasks and whatnot all laid out in order that we're going to kind of tackle them in the lesson to kind of keep me on track and then keep the students on track as well. So why use Google Docs as this kind of presentation platform? Why not just use like Google Slides like I'm showing you right now? To be honest, I find it a lot simpler to put together, right? It's easier because I've got my plan already right there in front of me. I'm not jumping between two separate documents. It's super versatile, like easy to use, and it's easy to navigate. I personally, and people might have a different opinion, I find it much easier to manipulate beforehand and on the fly than Google Slides. Just because it's all there in one spot, it's easier to kind of move things around without having to jump from slide to slide. All right, so I jumped ahead earlier. So this is kind of the presentation or demonstration for using a Google Doc. So like I said, we will have the title, date, and learning objective at the top. And then preloaded, I'll have like the different activities that we're going to do. Now, this little toolbar at the top, the zoom, which you may or may not know about, is the easiest thing. So if you see something's not fitting on the screen, you can just zoom in and zoom out, and then they can see it. So the starter activity was look at the image below. What type of person would work in this space? Use evidence in the image to support your ideas. The student might look at
I think you're cutting out a little bit, Ian.
Okay. Hopefully that's not an issue with my internet. So I'll try and slow down a little bit maybe. So you'd be able to see paintings on the wall, books, like maybe kind of papers strewn all over the desk. You might think someone is like artistic, well-read. If you've got some nature outside the window, it's quite a small space, so maybe humble, maybe somewhat messy. If you zoom in to the desk, you've got some bottles there, coffee cups, some oil lamps, or maybe this isn't like a modern writer, right? The students might make some inferences. But the idea is that you've got kind of your images already sort of laid out here. After the students have reflected and fed back, I'm going to sort of introduce, okay, well, this is Dylan Thomas's writing desk. Who is Dylan Thomas? The students would then obviously often ask. And then already I've kind of got the bio of Dylan Thomas that we might read through together. He's a poet, lived from 1914 to 1953, from Swansea in Wales, lived and died in New York. And then they've got like a larger bio. But the idea of this, not to kind of speak with all lesson, just to show you that you just kind of lay it all out here. And instead of moving from slide to slide like you would with a traditional slideshow, you can just scroll down and present your information that way. What's also kind of cool about this is if you're like, oh no, I forgot to put something on the slide, or I forgot to put something in the document, you can just like scroll up to your lesson plan, kind of quickly copy and paste, and then put it at the bottom, because sometimes, things happen and you forget to put things in. In fact, earlier today I was doing this and I'd forgotten to put something in. So you can put your lesson tasks on there, right? So this task was asking students to connect the phrase, the light, and what that might symbolize, what it might represent. So then the students can feed back, and you can have them respond in the chat, or you can have them respond in your digital notebook, or have them kind of click in live and speak to you live. What's also cool about this, so here's some information that I might have them copy, or what I can do is copy and paste it into the chat, and they can copy and paste it into their notebooks. Is what is a villanelle, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then you've got links as well. So this is a link to Dylan Thomas reading the poem that we're going to be analyzing together, or that me and my students would analyze together, which is Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night. So you can click on that, and then it opens YouTube in another tab. So bring it up, and then hit there. You've got it ready to go. It's not working very well. Okay, so unfortunately you tend to have ads or whatever on YouTube, so then you'd go straight into it. All right, those
Yeah.
people just made the webinar.
Yeah, I think your volume needs to come up a little bit. You're getting kind of quiet, Ian. It started out strong. I'm not sure what happened, if it was the internet connection or what.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, so I turned my volume up on my computer. Okay, so yeah, so you can embed videos, so then other people, the students will be able to, you'll be able to click on it and present it to them. The thing about this as well is you can also share it with the students, right? I might put the whole lesson plan on Google Classroom, and that way students who are unable to attend the virtual lesson that day, will be able to attend or be able to do the activities, because they'll be able to see all the lessons there. Okay. Oh, we've got some ambient noise in the background then.
That was me. I'm muting myself again.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah, no problem. All right, so if we go back to the presentation, so that's it. That's your kind of first tool to use, right? Using Google Docs as kind of your presentation home base. And like I said, some people prefer Google Slides, which is okay, but I find Google Docs is versatile enough and pretty convenient. So I put some quotations in regarding virtual learning. So here's one from Rosalie Leda Valdez. She said, "Think out of the box and create a learning experience where the learner can interact with the content and their brains." All right, so yeah, good. Let's think outside the box. This guy needs to use it later on. It's good to intersperse humor for your students, as well as, as the learning activities that you're going to be using. All right, so oops, I think we went the wrong way. Oh, so next we've got digital notebooks. So if I skip back one. So digital notebooks are on Google Classroom. Now I can't remember. I'm pretty sure someone at some professional development sometime somewhere showed me how to do this, or helped me come up with this idea, or maybe told me about this idea, but I can't for the life of me remember who it was or what professional development it was. I've been using digital notebooks for a few years now. I was really lucky in that when the pandemic hit, my school site already had one-to-one Chromebooks. Santa Clara Unified and Wilcox High School, well done to you guys. We already had one-to-one Chromebooks, and all my students were already on Google Classroom and using a lot of these tools in the real classroom, right? In the classroom in real life, and not just kind of virtually. So they already had like some working knowledge of these tools. So digital notebooks are there to replace your kind of traditional spiral bound notebook. The students take notes on them, obviously. You can find them in Google Classroom. If you don't have a Google Classroom, I recommend you get one. It's just a good way to manage your curriculum if your district supports that. Essentially, the digital notebook is a continuous Google Doc that is assigned to students at the start of the year to take notes on throughout the year. So when would you use this? Well, pretty much every lesson. So my students use this rather than a paper spiral bound notebook. Whenever you would have the students take notes, they use their digital notebook, basically. Why digital notebooks? Well, I find that they're more versatile than traditional notebooks in that the students can copy and paste images, insert links, create charts quickly. But the real beauty about digital notebooks is that they are always turned in. As an English teacher for 15 years, I always dread like collecting in students' notebooks, because you get a pile, the size of a small toddler that you've got to kind of carry home, and they sit in the trunk of your car for X amount of time until you can kind of get to them and grade them and get them back to them. And usually it's kind of urgent because they need them, right? They need to use those notebooks in lessons. So what's good about digital notebooks is they are always turned in. You always have access to them. You can check 5 here and another 5 there, and really get to it whenever you want to get to it. And you don't have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger or whatever, like trying to carry those bags of spiral bound notebooks. All right, so quick demonstration about digital notebooks on Google Classroom. All right, so I've already got my Google Classroom tab open. So again, you would find that on the waffle. So you Google Apps, you go to Google Classroom, and then I created a mock class for this presentation. So this is a virtual teaching Guerilla style Google Classroom that I've created. My screens are all being awkward. So if we click on classwork, I created a model to show you what it looks like here already, but I'm also going to show you quickly like how to create it. So this is the digital notebooks. You just create it like a normal assignment. What I have is the students kind of rename the digital notebook in this. The reason why I have them do this is because in the folder that is created in your Google Drive, when you create any assignment, this helps organize it, right? If they organize it by last name, first name, and then whatever the class name is, digital notebook. And then I give the students an example. So if we click on it, this is basically what it is, right? So I've created a Google Doc and I've basically done the cover page for them. So in the header here at the top, they have to change where it says your name and they have to put their last name. That way, header on each page of the will be their name as opposed to saying your name. So it's kind of a formatting situation. Where it says insert class name here, they write whatever class it is, right? English 9, English 10, AP Lit. They fill in their name, the start date. What I usually do is create a separate digital notebook for semester 1 and semester 2. The reason why I do that instead of just having them continue on the same one all the way through is like some students, like if the internet is lagging at school or whatever, it can take some time to scroll from the beginning of their digital notebook to the end. So it's good to get a fresh start at the end of a quarter or the end of a semester. That way you kind of cut down on that lag time at the start of class. And then, like I said, when I showed you the home base Google Doc, I have the students write the title, date, learning objective, and starter activity every lesson. So the way I've got this set up is instead of typing that each time they start a new lesson, they just copy it and then they paste it into where they're starting their fresh page, and it gives me a sense of where their new lesson page is starting. Also, we've got a picture here. This essentially is the cover of their digital notebook, and what I ask students to do is to erase my picture and put a picture that they feel represents themselves, school appropriate, obviously. And this is usually a good icebreaker at the start of the year as well. It gives me an insight to kind of talk to them about, oh, why did you choose that picture? Or it can be a symbol that represents them. But this has kind of a dual purpose in that when I look at the digital notebooks through Google Classroom, it will show me that picture, right? So I'll be able to see the cover picture of the different students. Now, hopefully I can show you this. Now, once you've assigned it and once students have their digital notebooks, I mean, I've got no students in this model class, so I'm not really going to be able to show you exactly. But when you look on student work, whether they've hit submit or not, you can click on the student's name and you can click on their digital notebook and you can always access it, right? You can even chat live with the students on their digital notebook while they're working on it. So I found that really useful in that if I'm off campus for some reason, if I have a meeting and I have a substitute teacher that day, then what I can do is I can like check and monitor the students' work and progress, even though I'm not in the classroom. And obviously now in a virtual realm, that's really useful because none of us are in the real classroom. So I can click on students' virtual notebooks while they're doing a virtual notebook assignment and say, okay, like get back to work or right? Whatever sort of feedback is that I need to give them, either, you know, praise or sort of punitive, trying to help motivate the students. So it's really useful in that we can kind of see live what they're doing.
So I think Faye is asking if there's a link to the digital notebook. Maybe they're looking to see if they can check it out. But they're
so it's something that I've created. So what sort of link is it that she's looking for?
I'm not sure. Faye, maybe you could clarify. And then Jeanette's asking, why not post most recent lesson at the top of the page? So is that just a procedure that you've trained your students with, or?
Yeah, I guess that would be a better way of doing it. Yeah, they could do that. Instead of the bottom of the page, they can just continue at the top of the page. And that's a good idea. Yeah, I should get them to do that. That way they don't have to scroll all the way through to get to it. Shareable link to make a copy. Yeah, so I can create a shareable link so you guys can make a copy. I can add that at the end before we kind of log off.
Perfect.
I can share a copy of that link for sure. Okay, look at that. We're teaching each other. I love it. Okay, I got to move my little screen here at the top. Sorry, I can't see the chat because it's moved off to the right, so I can look at the presentation.
That's okay. I'll let you know if there's anything else.
Yeah.
I'm paying attention, and I'm listening and laughing, so I'm glad I'm muted.
Okay, see, so it's hard.
It is.
Man, you like talking to an empty room sometimes. Like, oh, are these jokes falling flat?
No, I don't know if anyone else is laughing. I was laughing pretty hard. So, and I can totally relate to the trunk full of, I used to do interactive notebooks, 8th grade English and social studies. Oh gosh, yes. And then you're also keeping yourself healthier because when kids are sick, you're grading a lot of notebooks.
Right? It's so you've got them turned in all times. And if you've got the less motivated students, you can kind of click on it and they know then that you can kind of oversee as well and kind of keep tabs on them, which is
yeah, I love that. No, I get it. Yeah, so it is weird when you're talking, everyone's muted here, but yeah, don't worry.
Okay. I'm gonna keep cracking
At
up.
least I'm following along, so keep going. You're good.
It's okay. I have 2 children. They'd never laugh at my jokes. I tell dad jokes all day long and nobody responds. So I'm kind of used to it. All right, so let's go back to the presentation because I want to make sure that we're kind of moving and looking at the other tools. So that was digital notebooks on Google Classroom. A few teachers at my school site I've sort of shared that with, and they love it. So it's nice. So another kind of quote regarding digital learning: the students, they're right there. They're listening. They like talking to each other. They like typing to each other. A big attraction of virtual learning is that they get to engage in real time with the other students as much as with you and me. So we've got another meme, right? This class requires a lot of student interaction, so speak up now if you're shy. I'm sure we've all said something similarly ridiculous as teachers. All right, so the next tool that I want to share with you is Kami. So you can find it at kamiapp.com. There's also an extension on the Chrome Web Store. You can just find it on the Google Drive add-on on G Suite. Basically, you can just Google it, right? If you just Google kami.com, it'll come up. What is Kami? It's a digital annotation and collaboration tool. When would you use this? Not every lesson, but you would use Kami when you would traditionally live annotate a projected text on the whiteboard or use the document camera in class. So often I would use like live annotation when we're covering poetry in class, right? I might project the poem either through the document camera or from my computer, and then I'd live annotate on the board, and we'd have kind of a class discussion, and students would give feedback, and we'd annotate it on the text. So basically, Kami allows you to do that, but virtually, instead of having to lug home your document camera and having to write like on a board behind you. So why would you use this? Well, you can use the highlight and the comment feature. You could use the highlight and comment features to create annotations on Google Docs, and I certainly have done that, like showing students like annotations on Google Docs. But sometimes when you're typing, I'm not the quickest typist or typer in the world. I prefer to handwrite things, so it definitely feels a little bit less clunky, and it feels more like a live annotation to use Kami. But the problem with Kami is I'm still getting used to it, and my handwriting is absolutely shocking when I use it. The students critique my handwriting at the best of times when I'm writing on the whiteboard in class. So trying to annotate on a virtual annotation, it can be even worse sometimes. So I'm going to show you a live annotation with Kami. As a side note, please don't make fun of my terrible handwriting. Right? You guys can practice later. Digital annotation does take some getting used to. So like I said, you can either Google it, so you would just type in Kami, when I download it, I've got like a Cami extension in my little toolbar here at the top. So basically, it's the same thing whether you kind of Google it. You do have to create an account with Cami, but there is a free to use account. Now, without me even realizing, they gave me like free trial of the full version, which ends in 37 days. You can create like a teacher account or a business account, I think. I created a teacher account, but really I was using it just the free to use account, and really a lot of the functionalities I was using you can use for free. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a document. So if we go to Google Drive, I don't know if you might not be able to see this part. So I'm going to go to my Google Drive, and then I've got a copy of the Dylan Thomas poem that we were talking about in the lesson. So I'm going to select that. Okay, so here it should come. And let me know if you can't see the poem appear. Hopefully you can.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, perfect, good. So you guys can see it. So here we've got a copy of the poem, and we can live annotate this this poem. So really, the tools that I use the most that are free to use are the drawing tool and the markup tool. All right, so the markup tool allows you to do things like highlight the text. Right, so if I want to highlight the first line, we can see it, it's highlighted there. You can also do a box highlighter. So if you wanted to highlight a whole stanza, you can just pull the box highlight over it. You can do that. I'm doing this with the mouse and the cursor right now because the highlighting and all of the markup things are a little bit difficult to use. I have a touchscreen Chromebook, so when I'm actually writing the annotations, I would use this thing. Oh, what are these things called again?
Do your students have access to this as well, or is this just for you to annotate their papers?
So that's a good question. So I've only used it for live annotation I'm presenting to the students.
Okay.
If your district wants to pay for the full package, then the students can also have access to it, and they can do live annotations. And it actually integrates with Google Classroom, so you can assign an annotation activity.
Oh, cool.
That they can do through Google Classroom, and I can show you that real quick because with the trial it popped up. But you've got to kind of get it authorized through the district. Like I don't know if my district has authorized this student use at the moment because they've got to sign up, and I don't know what information they've got to give to get access. So you might want to check with your school district about whether the students can access it.
Well, yeah, and I was just thinking, if districts are investing more in this type of software, because the future is kind of uncertain right now about what we're going back to in the fall and all of that. That might be a good investment for districts or teachers, possibly, right?
Well, I think so too, and I think schools that are already using more technology in the real life classroom, right? My students, have digital notebooks. We do a lot of stuff on the Chromebook already. I mean, to be able to have them live annotate instead of doing it on paper. I mean, we kind of mix it up. Sometimes they'll annotate on paper, but sometimes they'll do it on a Google Doc. But it's not the same as kind of hand writing it with a system as with stuff. So at the moment, I'm using the cursor. And you can also strike through things, right? So you can cross things out, and this works on students' papers, right? You can annotate students' papers this way, or whatever you want, really, like images, pictures. You can do annotations, and then you can obviously underline parts of the text as well. Here you've got your different color options, your little artist's palette thing here that you can change. The comment tool is similar to Google Docs in terms of like text comments. So if I want to highlight something, again, this might be a student's paper, or if I want to annotate this way, I can highlight it and then I can sort of write my comment in there. What's pretty cool about this as well, this is, you don't get this with the free version, unfortunately, is that you can leave voice and video comments. If anyone's ever used turnitin.com, which is an anti-plagiarism,
That's cool.
you can like leave personal like feedback or personal commentary for the students as well. So I haven't really used that in terms of like a live annotation like this, because obviously I'm talking to them live. But if I wanted the students to look at this outside of class and I wanted to share this with them, then they'd be able to access that, which is pretty cool. You can create text boxes as well and type things in if you wanted to type. You can do that. Equation, to be honest, I've not used this. I think I don't know if this is like a math functionality. I've never used the equation piece, so I'm going to skip past that because I've got no idea what it does. But really, the drawing one enables you to do sort of live annotation. So I got to kind of get a little bit closer to my screen here. Sorry, you guys, as I'm leaning forward to annotate, you might get a view up my nose. So if I'm going to annotate this poem, you know, I might want to kind of number the stanzas so I can write live on the screen that shows up with my stylus. So we've got 5 and 6. So I might number the stanzas. I might number the line numbers. Like I said, depending on sort of the stylus you've got, mine's not that great. You might have a sort of a finer tip. So 7, 8, 9, etc. Right? So you can do that. You can circle and underline things live, right? So we might circle night and put like negative connotation. And then we might put this is juxtaposition, right? So we've got that kind of side-by-side contrast of good and night. We might highlight in the poem the kind of parallelism or the parallel structure that happens at the beginning of each, and we might number these because Dylan Thomas talks about good men, wild men, brave men, wise men. Oh, I numbered that wrong, so that would be 1, 2. Oh, this is a good opportunity to show you the eraser, right? So if you've done something wrong, you can just go to the eraser and erase it. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then finally Dylan Thomas is talking about his own father there at the end, right? So you kind of get the idea in that you can touch screen, do a live annotation, speak to the students live, and as they're giving you feedback, you can kind of highlight it, and you've got plenty of sort of space over on this side to write your annotations and to put that into practice as the students' feedback. What's also cool about this is you've got shapes, right, that you can draw. If you're doing like a non-fiction analysis, you need to draw a rhetorical triangle. You can pop your triangle right there, and then you've got, right, oops, I've still got it in the triangle function. You've got to go back to drawing, and then you can have like speaker, audience, and purpose there. And fill that out so you can do a quick rhetorical triangle, and you've got a bunch of other different shapes and colors and lines that you can use. The eraser tool, obviously, to erase all the different things. If you want to erase your annotations or your different shapes. You can also add images to this, either from your computer, your Google Drive, or you can Google search and add images, right? So if I wanted an image of Dylan Thomas that I wanted to add to this, I can kind of search up Dylan Thomas. Oh, here we've got the images I was using earlier. So we can put, I think this is the Dylan Thomas statue that might be in Swansea. So we can put that up there and just add that to the annotation if we want to, or pictures of different things that we're talking about as we're annotating the text. So this is pretty much most of the stuff. You've got a dictionary functionality. I played around with the text-to-speech function on this as well, and I didn't see how I would use it, because when with the different, it would be good for students who perhaps have like hearing impaired, so they can kind of listen to it, or students who want to hear it out loud. But there's also this ability to change the voice on it, and I thought it would translate it into that language. But what it does instead is it reads it out in the intonation and with the accent of that particular like language.
Interesting, but in
Yeah,
English.
but in English. So it's reading it out in
Hmm.
English, but with that particular like
Hmm.
inflection or accent. So I don't know. Maybe other people need that functionality. But yeah, it's there if you want to use it. In terms of the top bar here, you can zoom out and zoom in if you want to see the whole thing versus just a portion. And then you can share it with the students. Once you've completed the document, you can share it as a doc. Print it and save it, obviously. Download it. When you save it, you've got the option to like save it to your Google Drive or download it. And then a lot of different functions here in terms of like rotation and restoring things that you've deleted and that sort of thing. I've used too much of that, to be honest, mainly just the annotation part and the comment part. All right, phew. All right, that was quick. That was a
Cool.
lot of information in a short period of time. I hope everyone's still following.
We do have some questions, but I think
Okay.
they're more about Google Notebook.
Okay.
Oh, someone did say, okay, like, so let's go back here. So it's just looking at the names. Jeanette asks how to do handwritten annotation without touch screen. So how would you do that if you don't have a touch screen?
Yeah, if you don't have a touch screen, it's really tricky. It's a bit trickier because you've got to use your cursor, right? So you would still go to markup, or sorry, you'd still go to drawing, but instead of being able to actually touch the screen, you've got to use your mouse pad to do it. So it depends like how adept you are, right? So it's a bit more tricky. If I were to write, it would be slow, right? I'm trying to do it with my mouse pad, and it's pretty hard to do.
Okay, so that's good to know. Then let's see. Caitlin said, I've used that function when a poet is from a different part of the world. Oh, so she's referring, I think, to the accent. She's used that function when a poet is from a different part of the world than my students, or when the speaker of the poem is referenced from being different so that students can hear the difference. Oh,
Okay.
that's interesting.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's cool.
cool. And then Faye is asking, I believe, do you use any learning management system to, I'm assuming, like to coordinate all this, or in general, and then we can look at the Google Notebook, I think, at the end, so you can
Yeah,
get to the other
I got
stuff.
one more thing to show you.
Yeah.
What example does she have of like a learning management system? We use Google Classroom.
I don't know. Okay, so that's a learning management system. There you go.
All right,
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
Google Classroom is what we use. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll finish talking about the Google Notebook at the end, because you have you're going to show us Jamboard now, right?
Yeah, this is going to be the final thing.
Yay, which I've been sharing ever since you showed me. So I'm
Okay, good.
looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I like it. So Jamboard's pretty neat. So Jamboard, you can find it. It's an app that you can get on the Google G Suite. Again, like I said, my school uses a lot of Google stuff. So you can get it on the Google Play Store. You can actually get it as an Apple app store. So you can use it if you've got Macs as well. So it's an electronic whiteboard that you can write on, you can share, you can collaborate on, you can save. You can work on it directly on your laptop screen and then present and share with your students. So when would you use this? Whenever you want to gather and curate feedback from students. When you would take notes on your classroom whiteboard, you would just use this instead. I find that it's more dynamic than a Google Doc because it allows you to handwrite directly on it. Again, if you've got a touch screen, it works best with a touchscreen laptop. Multiple boards, you can have multiple boards on one project or unit, and then you can share and add collaborators. You can have the students collaborate live on it. It's very versatile in that you can add pictures, type text, written text, and all sorts of shapes and images. And what's really cool about it, which kind of makes it better than your in-classroom whiteboard, is sometimes I'll have something on my in-class whiteboard. I'm like, oh man, I've got to erase it to make room to write something else, but I really wish we'd sort of kept that information. You can snap a picture of it maybe and share that with the student. But on Jamboard, it's saved permanently, and then you can just skip to another kind of clean whiteboard and skip back and forth between the two, which is pretty cool. All right. So what I'm going to have to do, because Jamboard is a different application and it doesn't just go on the window here, is I'm going to open it up, and then I'll have to unshare and then share the Jamboard so you can
Sounds good.
so it's just going to take a second. I'm going to share one that's already in progress. Got it. Okay, so I'm going to click this up here. So I'm going to go to new share. Oh, nothing's coming up.
Are you able to share it in Google Meet usually? Is that how you share it with students?
Yeah, I share it with Google Meet. So I stopped sharing, but I can't find how to get back to the share function. Where is it?
Should be at the bottom of your screen.
Oh yeah, here
Do
it
you
is.
see
Yeah,
it?
I've got it.
Should be
I see
green.
it. I found it. There we go. Okay, so let me know. Can you see the Jamboard now?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Cool.
this is the Jamboard. So let me go through some of the functions of this. Again, it's good if you have like a touch screen, but you can use some of the functions if you don't. So here is the sort of writing tools. You've got obviously different sized pens, like marker pens, like thinner pens, like a paintbrush, different colors. So I can just kind of show you some of these. If we click on that, and then I can show you the squiggles. So you can see the different sizes of the different tools that you're using. Again, my apologies for my handwriting. Can be hard when you use it.
That's okay. That's the reality.
I know, right?
I mean, that's the real. I mean, that's realistic.
Yeah. So, but I'm going to show you something that's magic here, right? In terms of terrible handwriting like me. So if you go to where it says assistive drawing tools and you click on that, then you've got this particular tool which takes your handwriting
wow.
and it turns it into like typed text. So if I select that and I want to write Kafka, so I write Kafka and then by magic it just changes it into typed text. So then the students can read my illegible scroll.
Oh wow.
And then you can kind of move it anywhere you want to on the Jamboard, right? So if we were going to do like a mind map or something, we could put that there. And then you can delete it. You can also like, if you go to this little arrow icon, you can touch it again. And what you can do is you can pinch it and enlarge it, so you can make it bigger and smaller as you want to use it. You can also move it around using the cursor, and you can make it larger and smaller using your mouse pad too. So you don't need to have.
Oh, very cool. And it does that automatically. You don't have to click every time you write.
And well, you just have to have this thing open, yeah, and it would do it automatically as long as you've got text to text. All right, so something else I want to show you. So let's just we're gonna move Kafka over here and make that a little bit smaller. So something else I want to show you in terms of like on a similar vein is the like shape drawing tool. So again, if you want to do like a rhetorical triangle or a circle, right? So I'm going to do a circle this time. It recognizes that I'm trying to draw a circle, and it'll change it into a perfect circle. So if you want to like write inside or outside that, you can do like other shapes too, and it should change it into the different shapes that you want to create. So if we delete those. Oh, wait, I've got to go to the arrow. See, I forget sometimes. You've got to go to that arrow and then hit delete. Another good function is this tool. So you might be able to figure out what this does, right? If you want to draw something, what it'll do is predict what it thinks you're trying to draw, and it'll give you a better drawing of that thing, right? So here we've got an example of a cat. Now, so let's see if I try and draw, I didn't test this out, so this might not work. So if I try and draw like a cockroach or a bug, maybe it will predict what I'm trying to draw. Oh, it thinks it's a table.
Oh, so cool.
All right, so there we've got like a selection of different bugs that it thinks I might be trying to draw.
So that's useful for vocabulary then, especially. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking like maybe even younger grades, but
totally, yeah. But also just if you're not very good at drawing like me, I mean, that's supposed to be a cockroach. It looks like the sun is melting, but you get the idea, right? So it's got this kind of predictive ability on it.
So how do you use it with your students?
So what I'll do is I'll use it while I'm talking to the students if we're talking about the text. So recently we've been talking about The Metamorphosis by Kafka. So we were talking about the themes of the text. So if I wanted to leave this board and go on to another board, I can just click on up here. And so this is part of the same board. I might write, okay, themes at the top. Oh, it still got me in the drawing mode. So I might write, okay, what are the themes? And as the students are discussing the themes, we'll write different ideas down. And then what I'll do is sort of after class, so we've still got our discussion handy, I'll turn it into like a post-it note that we can leave on the Jamboard. So you can do that by creating like different sticky notes. You can add images, different drive content. You can add like stickers and emojis as well if you want to, speech bubbles, that sort of thing. Right? So you can add a whole bunch of different stuff to your Jamboard.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really handy as well because you can then share this with the students, right? If the students wanted to use it to sort of collaborate with each other, then they have access to it. Part of the Google G Suite, and utilize it as well. So one other kind of really handy function, and it took me a while to kind of figure out what was the purpose of this, is if you need to move like a whole bunch of stuff around, instead of having to click on everything individually and slide it around the Jamboard, you've got this arrow and you can draw a circle or what looks like a circle around it. And then it gives you the functionality to move like a lot of different things at the same time if you want to move things around your Jamboard. I use it whenever I'm sort of getting feedback from the students and we want to just gather that feedback. You've also got this kind of highlighter tool so you can point to things and circle things, and then it kind of disappears. That's about it, Jamboard. And then you can make a copy of it, you can add people, and then you can, once you've completed with it, if you don't want it to still be writable, you can just turn it into a PDF, and then you can share that PDF with your students.
Cool, very cool.
All right, phew, that was a lot in a short period of time. 4:55. Okay, we got it.
You're okay.
Most of it done.
No, that's okay. So are there any questions about Jamboard before we go back to the questions about Google Notebook? So I'm watching the chat. I don't see any other questions. So I'm going to give people a minute just to type.
Okay.
If not, we do have a question about Google Notebooks. So any other questions about Jamboard? We've gotten a lot of questions in our other webinars, Ian, about digital whiteboards. So actually I have shared this, not the functionality, but thank you for sharing this with me because I've been able to share this app with a lot of teachers over the past few weeks. So
okay, that's good.
I don't see any questions about Jamboard. So let's go back to Jeanette's question. They said, please clarify how Google Notebook is right there. Do you mean that the template created by the teacher has been posted to Google Classroom? So
Yes. So you create the template, and then you can just click on this, like you can with other assignments in Google Classroom. It's always turned in. You always have access to it. So when you post an assignment on Google Classroom, the students have a copy and you have access to that same copy. You actually can access it in two different places. You can access it through Google Classroom, and then on your own Google Drive,
it's shared, right?
Yeah, it's shared, right? So if you go to your Classroom Drive, it's always shared in your Google Classroom Drive. So you just find your class and your period, and then you find your digital notebook assignment, and then you'll be able to access it, right? So here we've got my fourth period English 9 class. If I wanted to, I'm not going to open it up, but if I wanted to, I could click on it, find the digital notebook assignment, open it up there for a certain student, and then I can look at it sort of live, right? It's in existence in two places. They have a copy that they work on, and then I have access to the same document.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and I think it's great that you can check on work, like when you're out of the classroom and things like that.
Yeah, you're kind of virtually looking over their shoulder, right, to make sure.
Yes, I used to do very similar things with other software with my students when I was in the classroom. I think it's great. And then they also, it's a level of accountability. They also know like you're actually, kind of watching and, other things. So any other questions for Ian, you guys? We still have a few minutes left. Now's your opportunity. Jeanette says, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I guess no other questions. So I'm going to, I guess let me share real quickly the recording. It'll take up to a week. And Ian, do you have, and it'll be on our IPD website. So let me post that. Caitlin's asking, will other LMS specific trainings be offered? We are switching over to some of our instructional leadership core teachers doing trainings, and I don't know what's in the work. I'm taking a little break from coordinating webinars for a few weeks. So if I would recommend you look at our calendar on cta.org/IPD trainings. If you all, like everyone who's on here, I know there's eight or seven people on here, email us at ipd@cta.org if there's certain trainings you guys are looking for or other topics. We're always listening. We'll probably end up doing a survey eventually. Now that things are slowing down a little bit, we actually have the time to do a survey. So yeah, any final words? I know you were going to share a link, right? So people could copy the notebook, Ian?
Yeah, let me, I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll go and I'll create that link and I'll put it.
And just so while you're doing that, just so you all know who are on here, the CTA website is getting a new facelift on May 1st. It's going to look like a 2020 website instead of a 1995 website. So I'm really excited about it. We will still have the calendar and everything else up on our IPD page. It's just going to look a lot newer and a little different, but we'll make sure that that's still there for all of you. So I just wanted to warn you all that by next Friday, that website will look different. However, all of this information will still be there. So any other questions? You're still working on the link, right, Ian?
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to find it.
No, that's totally fine. If you guys need a certificate of completion, you can also email us at ipd@cta.org. I know some people needed this for their school district, so go ahead and do that. Devin says we cannot copy text in the chat. Oh, yes, that's right. I have chat turned off for privacy reasons. Sorry, I have the security up high. Can you post it as is it a easy link, or is it a link that I could send out to all the attendees who are here?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Okay, so what we'll do is I will have Ian share the link with me, and I'll make sure that it goes in the email. Zoom will send you all an email one day after the webinar. So tomorrow, hopefully by 4 or 5 o'clock, you'll get that email, and we'll post the link of the copyable Google Notebook in there. How does that sound, everyone? So yeah, so we'll do that.
Okay, so I'll just
okay.
share it.
That's easier.
Does that work?
Yeah, just send it to my CTA email and I'll make sure it goes in that. So okay. Awesome. Hey, thank you again. This was so awesome learning from you and
yeah, thank you.
Seeing what you're doing. Thank you for taking the time too away from your family to do this after teaching all day. And thank you all for being here. You're all doing an amazing job, and just know that we're here for you, and we're all going to get through this together. So have a wonderful night, everyone. Thanks a lot, Ian.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.